plants where it's in their best interest, they don't really worry about the tax breaks, but they're going to take the tax breaks. If other people are getting them, they want them too. And it's the worst practice this state, your community, this country's ever done, because I'm against it for 3 reasons. Number one, it's just un-American. We're all equal. Every business should compete equally. Why does one business get tax breaks and another business does not get it? Why is one more important than the other? Purely because of size. And you wonder now when you drive down your main street, whatever happened to all the local businesses. The giants ran them out of business because they get deals other people don't get. And when you're looking at, I'll assure you, Shaw Industries is not spending $9 million to save $3 million. I didn't see the specifics on that. They're not doing that. And when they say they'd put it in Dalton, whatever, let me tell you what's happened to Whitfield County with these crony capitalist deals before I get into the movie tax credit, because your elected officials don't understand them either, and they're paying no attention. And we started a joint development authority in Whitfield County 20 years ago, I guess it was. And they told we got to have it because the carpet industry, we're a one-horse town. It's a single industry town. We've got to attract other industry there. Well, we've had the joint development authority now for some 20 years, and we have not attracted any other industry there because the carpet industry is so big there. And the carpet industry, unfortunately, is in decline for multiple reasons. But also what's happened in the carpet industry is they're shifting from what Shaw was heavily nylon. And then a company called Engineered Floors popped up from Bob Shaw, who was in Shaw Industries, that makes polyester carpet. And that's changed the whole world in Dalton and everywhere else, because polyester carpet is cheaper than nylon carpet is. But that said, what's happening in Whitfield County is this with our joint development authority. All the building in Dalton now, all the new plants, particularly engineered floor plants, are in the county, not in the city of Dalton. And they've gotten all kinds of really sweetheart deals. And the school system in Whitfield County, we have 2 school systems, the city of Dalton school system and Whitfield County school system. Whitfield County school system, the average taxpayer, you or me, or any other business in Whitfield County other than giant businesses, has to pay 18.75 mils of property taxes. Well, the Joint Development Authority, in that bond, the reason it's going through the Joint Development Authority, because in Georgia it's not legal to give the tax break directly to the company. So the Joint Development Authority has to hold title to that property until the tax breaks run off. So in Whitfield County now, do you know who the largest holder of the tax digest is now in Whitfield County? Now keep in mind, this is a county with Shaw Industries, Mohawk, Engineered Floors. I can go on and on and on. Who do you think the largest digest holder is now in Whitfield County? The Joint Development Authority. And they're paying an average of 3.45 mils, where the rest of us are paying 18.75 mils. And the Whitfield County superintendent gave a program a week or so ago at Rotary. She put up a slide that shows Whitfield County is the 130th per pupil spending in the state of Georgia. Because they're giving all their money away to industry. And keep in mind, this industry has a lot of kids that have to be educated too. And if they're not going to educate them, who's going to educate them? And what we need to understand now in Walker County, Catoosa County, Whitfield County, Murray County, we're poorly educated populations. In today's world, if you're not well educated, you're lucky to make $10 an hour, $11 an hour. And if we keep giving it away to industry that are really low paying industry, and they don't want to pay for the education of their own children, who's going to pay it? And people say, well, we can't be the only one to stand up. Well, if nobody stands up, nobody wants to be the only one to stand up, nobody ever does. And what we're talking about here, and one correction I'll make, you said Shaw's a $500 million company, they're a $5 billion company. And makes that deal look minute, which is the Georgia movie tax credit. People heard of what the Georgia movie tax credit is? And so I sent a text message to all of our representatives with another article of what a boondoggle that is. It's the biggest boondoggle in the state of Georgia history. And you hear about all these movie jobs that are coming to Georgia. Well, 2 years ago, I think we were the largest movie production state. Now we're second to Canada. I don't know why they're saying we're second to Canada. Canada's a country, last I looked. We're second to Canada. And they're talking about all these jobs that it brings. Where does that data come from? It comes from the movie industry. The real data, and I've got about 5 handouts back there that has all the information I'm talking about in the handouts. The most important one is from a professor at Kennesaw State that did a study on these movie tax credits. And the thing about it is, too, when you think about this, is America was built by what? That made us different from Russia? The free market system. People really believed that the free market system was the best way to allocate scarce resources. Russia really believed that a centrally planned government could do that. Well, who won that battle? The free market system did. And unfortunately, when you look at what we're doing now in this country versus what we were doing 50 years ago, 40 years ago, we're beginning to look more like Russia and China than they are like us. Because more and more we got politicians, locally, state, they think they can make better decisions than the free market system can. And we've already seen what happens when people think that. Look at Russia. And in this movie tax credit business is, they don't, when I see this transparency, I love the title of that, whatever. They're not transparent with the information they're given because they don't even have the information. The state of Georgia has never asked for a study to show what the real worth of this program is. Other states have, and guess what they did when they got the study? They stopped it. They said it's a complete waste of money. But here in Georgia, what this does is this. And there's an example back there from the movie Jumanji. If any of y'all heard about the movie Jumanji, I saw it advertised. I didn't see the movie. It was made in Georgia and Hawaii. And what caught my attention was there were two articles on it, one in the Economist magazine, one in the Wall Street Journal. And they're talking about Sony Pictures. That's the same Sony that makes televisions, computers, and everything else, but they're also our big movie studio owner in Hollywood. They've lost money for years. And suddenly in the last 2 years, they've turned the studio around. One of them was with the making of the movie Jumanji. And they estimated that that movie was going to cost $130 million to make. Well, since they made it in Hawaii and Georgia, it cost less than $100 million to make. So that $30 million went right to Sony's bottom line in that one movie alone. And how did they do that? Now understand the difference in a tax abatement, which all industry's getting, which is lukewarm bad, in a tax credit that you can sell on the open market, which is the absolutely worst form of crony capitalism you can find. What we do in Georgia is we say that the movie cost in Georgia, we're going to give you back anywhere from 20% to 30% of your cost in tax credits that you can sell. Now understand these movie companies from California or wherever, they pay hardly any Georgia tax. So they don't need that tax credit for themselves. But they're allowed to sell those tax credits on the open market, and they're selling for 90 cents on the dollar. So what we're in effect doing is we're funding the production of these movies 30% of their cost. Now who wouldn't do business in Georgia, all the in here that own businesses, wouldn't you like to have somebody paying 30% of your cost of business? I'm moving there next week. Now, they ain't offered me that. I don't think they've offered anybody here that either. And this has been going on now in this state for over a decade. This last year, the state budgeted $800 million in those tax credits. And the study from Kennesaw State, which plenty of other ones out there to back it up, it produces about 10 cents on every dollar we spend. Now, who's going to make that deal? That's the return to Georgia for every dollar we spend is 10 cents. And ask your legislators, who I think Mullis, Senator Mullis is one, Steve Targan, whatever. Ask them specifically to how they vote on these tax credits, and then back up why they voted that way. Now they're going to give you a movie industry study. And what do you think the movie industry study says? Oh, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened to Georgia. And what I love also is the abortion bill that we passed last year. Whether you're for it or against it really doesn't matter. But everybody was happy we passed that abortion bill. Who was the biggest enemy of that bill? Hollywood. We're going to pull out of Georgia. We're not going to make movies in Georgia anymore. How many of them pull that? Zero. As long as we're going to finance 30% of their movies made in Georgia, they're not going anywhere. But also understand, we've never done an audit, as 2 states have done on these movie tax credits, and found out that Hollywood, believe it or not, they are made up of a few liars and fudgers out there. They load in expenses that they never spent in Georgia. They got caught and prosecuted. Georgia's never done that audit. And how many producers that live in Hollywood in their $1 million salaries you think were added in Georgia for those movies. There's no way they could add the amount of money they're saying they're spending in Georgia without doing things like that. How many G650 plane trips from Hawaii to Atlanta every month or every day is put in that cost? We've never done it all. The entire Georgia budget this last year was $26 billion. We gave $800 million to Hollywood. We have the highest income tax in the South. They're taking money from me, you, and everybody in this room to send to Hollywood. It'd be one thing if it was all staying here. I'd still be against it. Most of it's not staying. It's going to Hollywood or to Tokyo and relates to Sony Pictures. But the best way to stop this is, number one, educate yourselves, and then meet with your legislators and your senators or whoever, because it really needs to be stopped in Washington, D.C. and Atlanta. All this needs to stop. Because what's happening is we're finding out in Whitfield County, we're bankrupting ourselves, our school systems, our local governments, because the people now, as they get bigger and bigger, and they put the little guy out of business who's paying 100% of their taxes, you're going to end up with people who are not anybody's paying taxes, other than homeowners. Whitfield County has gone from 5 mil county government millage rate to 13 mils in the last 6 years. And that's with the carpet industry located in Dalton in Whitfield County. A $9 billion industry. We should have the lowest taxes in North Georgia. We got the highest taxes in North Georgia.
Give it away.
We are selling ourselves out every day with threats. Well, if you don't do that, we're going to move it to Whitfield County. It's time for people to stand up and fight. If you think you can make more money and move to Whitfield County, that's what you need to do. Or you give every business in Catoosa County and Walker County that same deal. Because I can tell you, when it comes to the giant companies, I have nothing against giant companies. They're not doing business with your local banks. They're not doing business with your local insurance agents. They're not doing business with your local real estate agents. And that's why when you look around towns across Georgia, across this country, outside metro areas, they're dying. And if people think that the world's going to be a better place with basically 4 companies in every industry, and that's what we're becoming in this country. 4 companies in every, I'm in the insurance industry. There's basically 4 health insurance companies left you can do business with in the entire country. And everybody's talking about Obamacare. What is it going to do to the insurance companies? The insurance companies, since Obamacare came into existence, has made more money than they've had. These are health insurance companies. More money than they ever had. They made record profits last year. Because they own the government. And when you look at things like this movie tax credit, people say, well, they like it too because the young people, it's a dynamic industry. Well, the center of all this is in Fayette County. Fayette County was in the Atlanta Journal 2 months ago trying to attract young people to live in Fayette County because they're one of the oldest counties in the state. Well, if it's such a great industry, you're going to attract all these young people, how come they're not living in the epicenter of the industry itself? Because your state legislature and your governor has been sold a lot of hot air that they resell to us. They have no facts to back any of this up. None. And I'm sure there's a lot of money going in other people's pockets we don't even know about. Because I keep thinking, how can they continue doing this? This is absolutely insanity. And also, at the moment, I don't know how much longer it is, we're still governed by limited government conservatives, Republicans. And I know they're limited government conservatives because every time they campaign for re-election, they tell you they are. Our state budget has gone from $16 billion a year to $26 billion a year in the last 7 years. My God, thank God the Democrats went in charge. What else could they have done? Well, it would have gone even higher than that because they're already spending every nickel that's coming in. And one of the reasons is because we're sending $800 million a year to Hollywood. And, you know, that's why I've left you things back there. Don't just listen to me. You can see these studies. You can see the rest of it. And it's time for people to start standing up to their state legislators and say, enough's enough. You're telling us that you can't provide services for our roads or whatever else. while we're spending $800 million for Hollywood production studios. And you can go to Atlanta and ask people to point out these jobs they're talking about. They've added, quite a few jobs down there, hammering sets together, $14 an hour. I'll assure you those producers living in Beverly Hills have not moved to Buck Hill. They're still in Beverly Hills. But the key to this is the gentleman stood up before. We don't know what's going on. And I'll assure you, your legislators don't know what's going on. I know our legislators well. I think we share Steve Targan probably. He's a nice guy. I don't want him making my economic decisions for me. It's fine for him to make them for himself. But I want the free market making the decision for me, where we all compete equally amongst that, and let the winner be whoever the winner is. And if they want to threaten you, it's time for us to call the bluff before it's too late. A couple of days ago, I don't know if y'all noticed on the news, that the overnight repo market, and that's what the banks borrow money from each other. They had almost a catastrophe. That overnight market went from 2% interest rate to 9 3/4 interest rate almost instantly. And in the article in the Wall Street Journal, at the end of it said, this guy said, listen, the volatility is somewhat understandable. No, the cash drying up is understandable. We don't understand the volatility. You think maybe $1 trillion deficits every year may have something to do with the cash drying up? Judgment Day is coming. And you can think with all these bribery deals, as I call them, by people threatening, if you don't give us this, then we're pulling out of your county or your city, whatever. It's going to come. And it's time for people to show it. And one thing I like about Catoosa County, I don't know about Walker County, because in the Chattanooga paper, they do a better job of covering Catoosa County, Walker County. I think a month ago or a couple of months ago, your commissioners were changing something, the way they're going to answer questions from the public. They wanted y'all to give them 3 days notice and writing, whatever, then the administrator come up with the answer. They're not going to come up with the answer. Let the administrator come up with the answer. And y'all filled the room up. When in Whitfield County, we went from 5 mills to 13 mills and nobody still shows up. But guess what's happening in Whitfield County? We have an out-migration of people to Catoosa County, to Murray County, to Gordon County. 62% of the people that make over $40,000 a year now in Whitfield County don't live in Whitfield County. So just because you own an industry, and you have all those big companies there, doesn't necessarily mean people are going to want to live there. So I commend what y'all are doing. I commend the thing about, and as I said, Shaw people, my friend, I love the carpet industry. But we cannot continue this race to the bottom. But this one here, if we allow this to continue in the state, that's worse than anything I've ever seen when it comes to crony capitalism. Because number one, at least Shaw Industries is still headquartered in Northwest Georgia. Most of the executives live here or in Southeast Tennessee, whatever. Those movie tax credits are going to California for the most part. Most of that $800 million a year. And it's growing every year. And what I love too, they increased it by 5%. If you've ever seen a movie credit, nobody ever watches movie credits. But every now and then you'll accidentally watch a movie credit. If you put the little peach logo down at the bottom of the movie credits, they get another 5%. So on a $100 million movie, they get another $5 million tax credit that they can sell for 90%. They get $4.5 million for that movie to put that little peach down there that nobody watches. That's the decisions that your elected officials are making on your behalf with your tax money. Thank y'all.
Anybody got any questions for David? Sure,
Well, question. I'd like to know what you feel about this Speaker Ralston deal. The lead trials while he's a speaker, and it's a abusive law to me.
Well, he's got a serious conflict of interest, because I don't blame him for working hard for his client. That's what he's supposed to be doing. But it's in conflict with his position as Speaker. He needs to resign one of them. He can make up his mind. It's a free country. But I can tell you what's going to happen is the state legislature could go back to a Democrat legislature in the next election in 2020. And if it does, that's probably what is going to be the tipping point to send it back. Because I can see the Democrats are already running the commercials with all the women that have been raped, beat up, and the rest of it. I mean, that's just playing perfectly into their hands. And now I never thought I'd live to see the day where Gwinnett County and Cobb County, both of their delegations are already dominated by Democrats.
It's gonna hurt the Republican Party.
Oh, there's no doubt about that, no doubt about that. But